explain to you exactly what's going on here, okay? Jessica Lloyd is one of 4 cases that we're currently investigating.
In the quiet suburbs of Ontario, Canada, a flight attendant returned home from a routine work assignment in 2009. Something was wrong. Her bedroom had been disturbed, her drawers rifled through, personal items missing. She assumed it was an ex-partner, perhaps acting out of spite or obsession. She was wrong. The intruder was her commanding officer, a decorated colonel in the Canadian Armed Forces who had piloted the Queen of England herself, and within days, he would return. This time, she would not survive. This is the story of Russell Williams, a man whose public achievements masked one of the most disturbing criminal trajectories in Canadian history. At 44 years old, Colonel Russell Williams represented the pinnacle of military achievement. His career trajectory had been nothing short of exemplary. As a pilot in the Canadian Air Force, he had transported prime ministers, dignitaries, and even Queen Elizabeth II. Archival footage shows him standing at attention beside the monarch, a testament to the trust placed in him at the highest levels of government. In 2009, Williams received what many considered the crown jewel of Canadian military postings, command of CFB Trenton, the largest and busiest Air Force base in Canada. This was not merely a promotion, it was recognition of decades of distinguished service. To his colleagues, subordinates, and superiors alike, Colonel Williams embodied military excellence. But behind the medals and the uniform, Russell Williams was harboring a secret that would eventually unravel into a nightmare. The first signs of Williams's deviant behavior emerged in 2007, though they would remain hidden for years. He began breaking into neighboring homes while residents were away. His targets were specific. He sought access to the bedrooms of young women, particularly their intimate belongings. What he did during these break-ins went far beyond simple theft. Williams would spend hours in these private spaces, trying on the stolen undergarments, photographing himself in elaborate poses, and meticulously documenting each intrusion. These weren't impulsive acts, they were carefully planned operations executed with military precision. Over the following years, Williams' compulsion intensified. He began surveilling potential targets, studying their routines, and timing his break-ins with calculated accuracy. By his own later admission, he successfully burglarized approximately 80 homes. His collection of stolen items grew exponentially, boxes upon boxes of women's undergarments, each item cataloged, each break-in documented on portable hard drives with disturbing attention to detail. Throughout this period, Williams continued his military duties without arousing suspicion. The cognitive dissonance between his public persona and his private compulsion was absolute. By 2009, the thrill of burglary alone no longer satisfied Williams. In the fall of that year, Williams committed his first SA. Masked and armed with a flashlight, he made his way into a woman's home while she slept and SA her. He photographed the assault, stole her underwear, and disappeared into the night. The woman survived, traumatized but alive. Weeks later, he struck again. Another woman, another assault, another set of photographs added to his digital archive. The pattern was established. Williams was no longer merely a burglar with a fetish, he had become a predator. The question that haunts investigators is not whether Williams would escalate again, but when. During a routine work assignment, Williams encountered a young flight attendant stationed at his base. Their conversation was unremarkable, the mundane professional exchange between a commanding officer and a subordinate. But Williams learned something that would seal her fate. She lived alone. As base commander, Williams had access to personnel files and work schedules. He studied hers carefully, and when he knew she would be away on assignment, he broke into her home, executed his familiar ritual, and left. Upon returning home, the flight attendant noticed the disturbance immediately. Drawers had been searched, items were missing. The violation was palpable. Like many victims, she rationalized the intrusion, suspecting a former partner rather than considering the unthinkable that her commanding officer was responsible. Days later, Russell Williams returned to her home, but this time, she was there. Williams entered through a basement window and concealed himself behind the furnace, waiting in darkness. When the flight attendant came downstairs searching for her cat, the animal's behavior alerted her to something wrong. The cat stared fixedly at the furnace, so she approached. Then, in an instant, Williams emerged from the shadows. He struck her with his flashlight, then SA her, and then he unalived her, recording the entire ordeal on video. The woman who had served her country, who had trusted her commanding officer, was unalived, terrified, and alone in her own home, at the hands of a man she had every reason to trust. Months passed. Williams spotted another woman through her window, exercising on a treadmill in her home. In that moment, her fate was decided. Williams returned under cover of darkness, waited until the house went quiet, and forced entry. What followed was another SA and unaliving, documented once again in photographs that Williams would later store alongside his other criminal trophies. 2 women were now unalived, and Colonel Russell Williams remained above suspicion. The unaliving triggered an intensive investigation by the Ontario Provincial Police. At the second victim's residence, forensic teams discovered tire tracks in the field behind her home. The tread pattern was unusual, potentially distinctive enough to identify the vehicle. Investigators implemented a bold strategy, a vehicle checkpoint on Highway 37, a major route through the area. Every vehicle would be stopped. Every tire would be inspected. On the 4th of February 2010, Russell Williams drove through that checkpoint on his way home from work. When stopped, he was courteous and professional, making certain the officers understood his rank and position. As the conversation continued, an officer examined his tires. They were a match. The investigators revealed nothing. They allowed Williams to drive away, believing himself safe. For the next 3 days, he was placed under 24-hour surveillance while investigators built their case. On the 7th of February 2010, they brought him in for questioning. Detective Sergeant Jim Smythe conducted the interrogation. For nearly 10 hours, Detective Smythe systematically dismantled Williams's composure, the tire tracks, the timeline, the evidence. Piece by piece, the net closed. Williams's body language shifted from relaxed to rigid, from confident to cornered. Finally, Russell Williams confessed to the break-ins, all 80 of them, to the sexual assaults, to the murders of Corporal Marie-France Comeau and Jessica Lloyd. He provided details only the perpetrator could know. The decorated colonel, the man who flew the Queen, was arrested and charged. Russell Williams pleaded guilty to all charges. On the 21st of October 2010, he was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 25 years. His military rank was stripped, his uniform disgraced, his legacy destroyed. The Canadian Armed Forces conducted an internal review. Williams's property was searched, revealing thousands of photographs documenting his crimes, a digital archive of depravity meticulously organized and preserved. The sheer volume of evidence confirmed what investigators had suspected. This was not a sudden descent into violence, but a long, methodical escalation that had gone undetected for years. If you found this story interesting, please consider liking and subscribing so we can continue to make more videos like this for you.